It's kind of weird because Jake Paul is extremely bigger than Tank, and I mean, but with it being a exhibition, it makes sense.
I'm gonna start like this. First of all, if you're a boxer and you're not taking note or notice of what Jake Paul is doing, you're worried about criticizing his boxing skills, then you're the fool.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight.
Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned boxer, is finally set to face Gervonta, Tank Davis, one of boxing's most dangerous pound-for-pound fighters, and legends of the sport are already weighing in. Davis comes in with explosive knockout power, speed, and experience against top opponents, while Paul brings size, reach, and a track record of surprising doubters. Many believe Tank's precision and skill will carry the day, but others think Paul's physical advantages and ability to upset expectations could turn this into the year's biggest shock.
Fair play. If he does go out and fight Anthony Joshua, which I wouldn't advise because that would be extremely dangerous, then fair play if he was to do that. And all the critics and people like myself would have to shut the hell up, because I always said he's looking for fights that were manufactured, looking for fights that were predetermined. And by that, I don't mean fake fights. I don't mean fixed fights. I mean fights where the odds are so stacked in his favor that of course he's going to win. And of course, we see this. The latest match that's going to go down November 14th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Jake Paul is taking on, you've seen it by now, Gervonta Tank Davis. A man that is a lightweight in boxing. Now, lightweight in MMA is 155 pounds. Lightweight in boxing, 135 pounds. Jake Paul, I think when he weighed in for Mike Tyson, was 227 pounds.
Official weight, 227.2 pounds.
That is, if I'm not mistaken, a 92-pound weight difference. Almost a 100-pound weight difference. It's insane. Let's say he comes in at 200 pounds. It's still a 65-pound weight advantage, which is absolutely ridiculous. How can you be out there claiming to want to fight the best people on the planet and then going out there and taking on a guy that is maybe 92 pounds heavier, that is at least 65 pounds heavier than you? That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, oh, I just beat the man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what?
The fight has officially been moved from Atlanta to the Casa Center in Miami, where Jake Paul and Gervonta, Tank Davis will clash on November 14th. MVP confirmed the change on Twitter, saying the battle stays on the same date but shifts to a new city, with Netflix streaming the event worldwide. While some dismiss it as pure spectacle, promoters have labeled it an exhibition. A major talking point is the huge size gap. Paul recently fought at about 199 pounds in the cruiserweight division, while Davis has been competing around 135 pounds, which is why Tank's WBA lightweight title won't be on the line.
Boxing fans are losing their minds over this Jake Paul versus Tank Davis fight. And honestly, can you blame them? Why would Tank agree to this? I mean, look at the graphic. Jake is 6'1", 199 pounds with a 6'4" wingspan. Tank, 5'5", 133 pounds, a 5'7" wingspan. Tank fighting me would be a fairer matchup. We're basically the same size. And you wonder why fans think Jake's fights are rigged? Because every time we see some nonsense like this, it feels like WWE with boxing gloves. Here's the kicker though. Jake threatened to sue anyone who calls his fights rigged. Yeah, you know, the same guy who preaches freedom of speech now wants to ban opinions. After that clown show with Mike Tyson that left everyone scratching their heads. Maybe, and I'm just throwing it out there, if your own management company wasn't promoting and sponsoring your fights, fans might actually believe what they're watching. Until then, don't be mad that people are skeptical. Be mad that your boxing career looks...
Details about the fight remain unclear, as no official contract weight, number of rounds, or confirmation of standard professional rules has been released. This uncertainty has led many to see the matchup less as a traditional title fight and more as a crossover spectacle, sparking debate over fairness, safety, and whether it undermines the structure of boxing's weight classes.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pound. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skill, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum.
Terence Crawford has voiced doubts about the Paul versus Davis matchup, pointing to the major size gap as the main issue. He sees it more as a show than a true contest, comparing it to a sparring session presented as a real fight. While he fully respects Davis's skill, power, and proven record, Crawford warns that Paul's larger frame could change everything if he lands a clean shot. Still, he questions whether the bout will follow standard professional rules and stresses that the weight difference makes it hard to view the fight as a battle between equals.
Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank.
Shakur Stevenson, still unbeaten and widely respected, views the Paul versus Davis fight as an unfair challenge for Davis because of Paul's much larger size. Even so, he believes Davis's experience, skill, and ring IQ will make the fight look one-sided. Stevenson expects Tank to rely on movement, accuracy, and fundamentals instead of trying to overpower Paul, predicting a decision win rather than a knockout. He doubts Paul has the technique to deal with Davis's speed and intelligence, and while he criticizes the matchup as a spectacle that disrespects boxing, Stevenson is confident Davis's boxing ability is on another level entirely.
70-pound difference between these two guys.
I mean, size will play some part of the fight, but if I'm thinking like I'm Tank, I'm probably just gonna go out there and try to outbox him and use my knowledge and IQ against him. So I can see Tank just outboxing him and making it real easy.
Is there any way you could, any realistic or legitimate way in your mind you could see Jake Paul winning a fight against Tank?
No.
No way.
Nope.
Not a lot of people have talked about Jake and said he's got good power. Not even and I get anything could technically happen, but you don't even see a realistic shot where he could land one big punch, and Tank being so much smaller, he just can't handle the power.
Nah, not at all. I think Tank is he's been boxing his whole life. Been boxing since a kid, so I doubt like that's gonna be an issue or problem. I think Jake is good for where he's at, but I think it's just levels.
What do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fighting?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that, and he called cap on it. So if he won't call cap and say I'm not who I say I am, come prove it. I think it's dangerous for him to go back in there and fight Lamont. I think Lamont is a hell of a fighter. I can see that going left. So he better be on his A game.
Daniel Cormier offers a balanced take, crediting Jake Paul for daring to face someone of Davis's caliber, while also noting how lopsided the matchup looks because of the weight gap. He points out that Davis is the far more accomplished boxer with greater skill, experience, and pedigree, so Paul is taking a big gamble. Cormier also highlights the stakes for both men. A loss could hurt Paul's credibility, while Davis losing to a bigger opponent could damage his reputation. Though he doesn't make a firm prediction, Cormier leans toward Davis on pure boxing ability, but admits Paul's size keeps the fight unpredictable.
Swear to God, I was on a plane coming home from Las Vegas. When Luis told me Gervonta Davis is fighting Jake Paul, I said, get the bleep out of here. I said, you're a bleep liar. Jake Paul is fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. Gervonta Davis is that much better than Jake Paul at boxing. But Gervonta Davis in his last fight weighed 133.8 pounds. And I'm not over here in the business of just crapping on Jake Paul. I am much more respectful of what he's starting to build as a professional boxer. You're fighting a guy that's better than you. He's just much smaller. But that guy, because he's better than you, what if he wins? Everything Jake Paul has done is wiped completely out. Gervonta Davis loses to Jake Paul. Obviously, it's going to hurt who Gervonta Davis is, but he lost to a guy that's going to be upwards of 70 pounds bigger than him when he steps into the boxing ring. But I will tell you this right now, without a shadow of a doubt, I will watch this. Tank Davis is 30-0-1. You want to talk about Jake Paul fighting a real boxer? That's a real boxer. You can't make this stuff up, man. It's true. They're fighting.
Teofimo Lopez views the Paul vs. Davis fight more as a spectacle than a battle for titles or legacy, driven mainly by money and mainstream attention. He argues there's no shame in that, since both fighters will earn huge paydays and the event is guaranteed to attract buzz. While it lacks the prestige of a championship bout, Lopez believes it still benefits boxing by drawing in new fans, expanding the sport's reach, and showing how big the stage can get when personalities, drama, and showmanship are involved.
I'm very happy for Gervonta and Jake. I really am, man. It's good for the sport in some way, you know?
So a heavyweight versus a lightweight.
Yeah.
You got a fly hit me, yeah. A heavyweight versus a lightweight. How's this going to work?
Hey, they make it work. It's an exhibition for a reason. So, you know, they know what they're doing. And, you know, shout out to Netflix and shout out to both of them, honestly. Like I said, I think a lot of people in the boxing world are kind of upset. I could care less. I think they're going to go out there and make their money. It falls on the number 8 for a reason. They're going to make a lot of money.
Have you got a prediction for that fight?
My prediction? A show. A show.
Well, clearly it's a show, but when you've got a lot of people underestimating Jake Paul once again, but when you've got a heavyweight boxer who knows how to throw punches and knows the basics against a lightweight, it's quite a difference. I mean, have you sparred heavyweights before?
Yeah.
For competitive sparring in the ring?
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same, not at all. Definitely got to move. I've actually played around a few times, went through between their legs just to duck around. But yeah, because they're taller, you know. But I think for that competition, that fight, it reminds me a lot like The Big Show, and Floyd Mayweather when they fought in WrestleMania.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And will that end the same way?
Possibly. Maybe some brass knuckles in there too.
Can you see Jake Paul knocking out Gervonta Davis?
It's boxing, man. And if it's a show like this, anything goes, anything happens. You know, we expected Mike Tyson to do something, didn't go out that way. Jake Paul's training very hard, so, you know, kudos to both guys. I'm not gonna...
Eddie Hearn agrees the fight will be a financial success but criticizes how it blurs the line between boxing and pure entertainment. He argues that Paul vs. Davis isn't a true competitive matchup but a business venture built on celebrity status and social media hype, with the size difference showing it's not about a fair test of skill. While he admits the event will draw global attention, sell tickets, and generate major revenue, Hearn sees it as troubling that commercial appeal is being prioritized over sporting merit. Still, as a promoter, he recognizes it will be a huge business when even if boxing purists feel the sport's integrity is being undermined.
They told us that it was, we were looking at that fight for February of next year, and they always said that there was a chance that Jake would fight in November. I think, wasn't I the one that broke Jake Paul against Gervonta Davis 6 months ago or something? I knew that they'd agree that deal. I didn't know they were about to announce it then, but I did know that they'd agreed that deal previously. So I don't like it, if I'm honest. I mean, I think we need to really differentiate between boxing and an entertainment concept, and that's what that is. It's a freak show, it's entertainment, it's a lightweight fighting a cruiserweight, with, I don't know, is it bigger gloves and certain minutes per round? I don't know what it is, but, I understand the market and I understand this freak show shock kind of the world mentality of people potentially tuning in. Is that a step too far? Maybe. I mean, I hated Jake Paul against Mike Tyson, but it did massive numbers. I hate Jake Paul against Gervonta Davis. It'll probably do massive numbers. So that's when you really have to differentiate yourself between, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it isn't going to do good business. Now, whether you want to be involved with it is another kettle of fish. I don't want to be involved with it, but I do respect the fact that it's going to do big numbers. It's just not boxing. And I don't think we should promote it as boxing.
In the meantime, then, Eddie, where does that leave you with Anthony Joshua? Are you exploring other options for the end of this year, or are you still looking at that fight for the beginning?
Yeah, no, we're not interested in the Jake Paul fight right now after that. I mean, like, you know, we're not going to wait around till November. Is it November or December?
Raul Romero takes a balanced view of the Paul versus Davis fight, emphasizing that Tank's legacy in boxing is already secure. As a multi-division champion with major wins, Davis has earned respect that won't be diminished even if he loses to Jake Paul. Romero does acknowledge that Paul's size is a genuine advantage, but he stresses that it doesn't erase Tank's accomplishments. No matter the result, Davis's titles, legacy, and standing in the sport remain intact.
Jake Paul might be too big for him, or Tank might crack him. You don't know. Like I said, or it's an exhibition. We don't know if they throw at each other or not, or we don't know. I don't know. I can't give an opinion because I don't know what's going on.
Do you think it impacts, will it impact Tank's legacy if Jake Paul were to beat him or even knock him out?
Dude, Tank's a 3-division world champion, 4-time 3-division world champion. At the end of it, bro, you can't take anything.
Paulie Malignaggi stresses that experience matters more than size in boxing. He acknowledges Jake Paul's popularity and physical advantages but insists those can't compare to the years of training, ring intelligence, and adaptability that Gervonta Davis brings. Having fought on the biggest stages and against top opponents, Davis's skill and experience, Malignaggi argues, give him the clear edge, as boxing is usually decided by ability and knowledge rather than size alone.
He's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. Yeah. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you, you can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah. But if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion, multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot that he still?
So here's the big question: when Jake Paul and Gervonta, Tank, Davis finally square off, will Paul's size and reach advantage be enough to shake things up, or will Tank's experience, speed, and skill prove too much? It's the classic clash of size versus skill, and now it's your turn. What's your prediction? Will the bigger man shock the world, or will the proven champion shut it down? Drop your thoughts in the comments.